Welcome to NMix, the show where I interview friends, colleagues, and people who inspire me. Today we have a hat wearer who wears so many hats, and a certified Bamani freak, apparently. Why don't
Apparently, yeah.
you?
Hi. I'm Jeff. Other people know me as Chi. I am a game developer, producer, designer, a lot of these different things. Primarily working on I want to say like a huge breadth of different kinds of games, but people probably know me best for Beatable, which I helped production and arcade game design work on for pretty much its entire development run. And then I also do my own projects on the side, helping publish other people's games, while also developing my own personal projects with my label Sky Hour Works. So I've had my hands in a lot of different rhythm games because of my work on Unbeatable, but I also do a lot of other adventure games and other things as well. So
Mhm, yeah. Um, Before we touch on the many hats you wear and the how diverse your portfolio is in terms of what you've worked on and how you've worked on those games, let's circle back to your Bamani obsession, apparently, because that's the thing
okay.
you've on your website. You you have a blatant Bamani obsession, and especially with pop and music. Can you elaborate more on that, like your history with
So
Bamani games?
So Bamani's fun because I want to say like despite growing up with rhythm games, like I grew up with Guitar Hero. That was like a family game, and like I have memories of playing the original like PS2 Dance Dance Revolution games when I was in speech therapy as a kid because I like grew up with speech delay. Like I couldn't speak actual human words until I was like maybe 3 or 4 years old. And Apart from that though, I wasn't really into most rhythm games, and eventually some partway through the middle of Unbeatable's development, I had the opportunity to play and meet like the local rhythm game scenes my area, and as a result like got really into some of these games, and notably the two games was Dance Dance Revolution, specifically the more recent like A20 Ace 20 Ace 3 series, and Pop and Music, as well as like the whole lineup. Like I liked Gita Dora. I played a lot of nostalgia as well. I was really into Dance Rush. I was not super duper into Sound Voltex, but like I've grown to like pick up the game and enjoy it. And I also really like Beatmania 2DX, which is like kind of the grandfather of the genre, more like, but not the great grandfather.
Hmm.
At least the grandfather of like the modern arcade rhythm game genre as we know it. And I just really fell in love with a lot of the music, a lot of the original music that the in-house Bamani sound teams have kind of accrued and built over the years, especially like kind of that 2010s era where a lot of these artists were firing on a lot of different cylinders, and a lot of their music was actually being crossed over between different games in the Bamani lineage. So if you played a song from like DDR and you really liked it, there's a good chance that it was also in Poppin and also in Sound Voltex and like playable in all these different formats of sometimes even different flourishes depending on the game. And I really like that kind of stuff. I really like the sense of style and just discovering a side of rhythm games that like isn't generally very accessible, especially to like an American audience. And just having the means to play them and really fall in love with them. That obsession turned went pretty far. Like I ended up owning a pop and music machine after falling in love with the game. So like the whole like actual cabinets, like the old CRT
Holy.
cabinets for the game. Um and uh like Pop and music was a huge reason of why I got into cosplay, because I really like the idea of cosplaying as one of the poster characters, Mimi. Um,
Aw.
and I also got really into competitive DDR, and have been to several tournaments across the U.S. To participate in all of those.
Hell
But
yeah.
yeah, like yeah, Bomani is like a huge fixture for me. I really love these games a lot. Although recently I've been playing more of the Sega rhythm games, but like I still really love Bomani, and like uh I think like one of the like kind of like bucket list things I got to do was I got to play like a new pop and music version the day it came out.
Mhm.
Um and That happened when I was in Japan during December. last year. And not only was it a new version, it was a new cabinet. It was like the brand new
Oh.
120 hertz cabinet with the big popcorn buttons and a really large screen, and the touchscreen as well.
Ooh.
And so it was, and that's the first new cabinet they've done for pop and music in like over 10 years, I think. Like basically like 2009 was when the HD cabinet released. So that was before HD really was like a thing in general. Um, and as a result, like that was like kind of like a once in a lifetime moment of being one of the very first people to play on this new cabinet on the day it launched. Because they obviously did playtest before, but like this new cabinet, like it was a like the day I got to play it like that morning, I was like one of the first people in line. I was the first person in line actually, at Leisure Akihabara, and like at like 10 like both like 9 10 a.m, and the operators were like setting up the machine and everything, and I got to be the very first person to play it, and I was in cosplay, and it was really awesome. Like just like a huge
Yeah.
full circle moment. That was like 2 weeks after Unbeatable launched, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah, that's
um
oh.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
but yeah, I wish I had words for that. This is genuinely awesome.
yeah, I really love these games, and they're very expensive, very massive, huge time sinks. Um, so I can't necessarily recommend everybody to get into them, but like if you like a lot of my work and you really like a lot of like modern indie rhythm games in particular, like almost all of them really owe it to these games. Um, for being what they are, and they're still very good, and they're still doing new things, and like Bomani's kind of entering this really cool new era where ever since like DJ Yoshitaka, who's like one of the like main sound team, like the one of sound team producers, became the CEO of like the arcade branch, right? Like things have like really turned around
Oh.
for Bomani, and they're starting to put a lot of effort into new, like revitalizing new versions of these games, doing new cabinet designs to update them for the newer generation, and most importantly, they're starting to bring these machines worldwide more. So now, like in the US, it's not just round one. You can play these cabinets at different venues. Like Furry Week Atlanta last weekend actually was the first time an American convention got to run these machines like on official network, officially
That's
sanctioned by Konami.
crazy.
So like it's a huge deal. Not without a lot of growing pains, but like we're finally seeing like a different era of these games that like personally like nobody like I would be shocked if anybody thought this would happen. Like these games
Yeah.
are officially getting released. They're actually showing up in arcades outside of one major chain. And they've expressed interest in having the cabinets in more regions outside of just Asia and North America. And like North America usually is just United States, but like they're actually looking into like South America and Canada and stuff for these games. So that's really nice.
Yeah. I'm not as lucky to like I don't have easy access to any arcade like rhythm games. I love playing them when I have the chance. I think the last time I played one, it was Beatmania 2DX for the first time. It was like a random buffet like restaurant in like I think Florida. Like I don't really know the exact place, but yeah, it was just randomly there, just like a very modern Beatmania 2DX cab. So I played it for the first time. Was bad at it because but
Mhm.
I had a blast. I I wish it was more accessible so I could spend more time to learn it, but I'm just glad they're finally reaching out to spaces like that, where it was just a random like buffet place and not like, the expected of like round one or something. It's
Yeah. I mean, the one game that's like especially going around is like My My, because My My has been pretty successful over here since they brought it like back in October. And like now there's like just so many different places that like are getting this game, all sorts of different arcades. I apparently some like really small arcade in like a town of like a really small population, like I think like 100 people have a My My cabinet now, like unofficial network and everything. That's crazy.
um
That's Sega though, and
yeah.
that's a very different story. Like the way Sega's handling these games is very different. But like, um, there was essentially like a kind of game plan from like Bandai Namco to make Taiko, which was a game that naturally already has a lot of recognition worldwide, to be like a big arcade smash hit in the US, and they kind of fucked it up. So it gave Sega the opportunity to just release their normally functional, good working My cabinets, and like it's kind of sweeping the entire country now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so Yeah, and like Konami's kind of doing their own thing too. Like they still don't really care as much about the like US audience, but now because of the success of games like and Taiko's original attempt, like they are taking it more seriously and bringing these games to more audiences and willing to willing to play ball with smaller entities and stuff to make it happen. And it's been very cool to see that. So, hopefully someday that happens. Like these games are still prohibitively expensive for smaller arcades to pick them up, and obviously they don't want to sell it to like just some random people. So like it's a bit of a tough process, I think, for some people to get access to these games. But they're very cool and they're very special. And there's still some ways to play them. Like Konami, especially Bomani, like they had a long legacy of being on older generation consoles, specifically PlayStation, PlayStation 2, and Dreamcast.
Hmm.
Um, for a lot of their game, like the Bomani games, Beat Mania is like I think pretty much like it's very complicated because like you see like Beat Mania, like 2DX, like 11, 12, 13, etc. Like they all have PS2 versions, but they're not exactly like the original arcade versions of those games, and they have a lot of differences. So it kind of stand like they have the same theming and they're using the same menus, but they kind of stand alone as their own thing, and they're still very worthwhile to experience. And getting controllers to play like 2DX or Pop-In on the PS2 is, while they're not as good, they're far easier, especially the kind of like lower end controllers, and you can still have a really good time playing them, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And there's also like home ports nowadays, depending on what game. Like Taiko, for example, has a couple of PC ports and console ports. One of them, oh God. Okay, so I was trying to find one of the like before it got delisted. I remember like my first exposure to Taiko was the Drum Master game that got released for consoles. Like the first like after the PS2 games, it was like the like first time it's been localized in over like a decade or so.
Like not Drum and Fun was the
I
name on
th-
Switch.
I
Um,
don't think it was the one on Switch. It was the one that got to Xbox first, and then like
okay, I don't know anything about the Xbox version for that
oh,
personally.
hold on. I can look it up real quick. The TLDR of that is that that game got delisted and got replaced with Rhythm Festival. Um,
Oh. Oh,
yeah.
I do think I know what you're talking about because they named it differently, but they were all pretty much identical, which was Drum and Fun for Switch, and then there's some other one for PS4, and I think one of those two versions came to Xbox. But yeah, they all
Uh,
got delisted in favor of Rhythm Festival, which to be fair, I think is fine because Rhythm Festival is probably the best way to play Taiko, like even over an arcade right now. Like,
yeah.
um, if you get a good Taiko drum like controller, like it is a better experience than playing on arcade. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It happens. Um,
Yeah. I wish the Bomani games are more accessible. A lot of them do have home PC versions, but they like require a Japanese account and a subscription base, and obviously you need to figure out controllers for those games, and that's still very complicated and still pretty tough. So, um, it's a very interesting situation where a lot of these games are built with unique control schemes and styles of like play in mind, but like they're not very adaptable as console games as a result, which like in some ways is kind of sad, but like also like that's what makes them so special and interesting
mhm.
to me. Like if I could play like pop in pretty easily with any controller. It wouldn't feel the same as those like big nine buttons. And it's the same with like Beat Mania. Like the whole turntable thing is actually like a huge part of the experience. Um, so it feels pretty bad to play something that's just reduces the turntable to just a button press or two, which you can still do. But like it's just not the same. So you do really want to try to play it with a controller if possible.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's part of the design itself with the controllers. And kind of moving on from the Bamani discussion, as previously stated, you wear a lot of hats from
hmm
producing, directing, programming, charting, writing, and also doing the publishing side of things for some games. Y- I- How did you manage to like just did you end up learning one of these like each of these things one by one, or did you just like end up like yeah, might as well be a jack of all trades?
I think it came from wanting to specifically learn to make my own games. So I did learn programming, and then I would have to also do the design for these games. So I was have to write these games. Um, but for Unbeatable, yeah, like I felt like I kind of slowly built a role for myself for that group because like when we started working on that game, like Andrew was doing like all the programming and all the artwork. And we didn't have anyone for music, but we would eventually get people for music. So it was like, what do I do, right? And I think that was like a huge struggle when I started working on this game. Was I didn't feel like I contributed much of anything to this project. But there were things that I could do that were easier for Andrew and made it easier for everyone, which was making sure the team actually got together and coordinate regularly. So there was like a kind of game planner role, but like obviously that's kind of it's a lot closer to like a producer role. Um, but over time, because I had an impact on how the game was supposed to play, and I was handling a lot of the level design, like the role kind of evolved significantly, where I was leading more in-depth functionality design for Unbeatable. But like in general for a lot of projects, because there are games where I like game ideas I had where I have a vision for how I wanted to play. I try to get my hands on a lot of different parts of it. Pretty much anything that's not art or music, I have dabbled in for games. So
So
yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
you don't have any sort of like musician experience? Like you've never tried
no,
it?
I have. I've I know how to use Ableton. I've also like I grew up playing piano, but it didn't stick for very long.
Ah.
And like I do have experience with music, in a lot of different ways, but it is not as strong. Like I don't have as strong of an affinity with it as I would like. Working on Unbeatable did help with that significantly. Being surrounded by that process made me learn a lot.
Mm.
But in terms of making my own tracks, like it's kind of a thing I've done privately, and I haven't actually used that process for like any works. I've done it, so I think like it did do some sound design work for some of my smaller projects. Like if I couldn't find a sound effect, like I would use those tools to make something,
Mm.
um, and whatnot. But like, yeah, for the most part, I don't really handle the music. I would be able to direct somebody in terms of what I want for music, as well as kind of figuring out implementation and putting it together. One of the early things I did, for example, Margin of Strange, was that I kind of like I made the system in the game that would allow us to dynamically load in and out certain layers of music. So like I have a lot of like connection with it, but like in terms of actually directly doing music production, I am not as familiar with that as other people would be, and probably even you, to be honest. So
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
you might be our least musically inclined guest on our show so far, which is honestly kind of neat. That yeah, when I was looking like through your portfolio and like the games you've worked on, while you have worked on a lot of rhythm games and such, you've not really dabbled in the like publicly in the music side of things, which I think while being a part of rhythm games and such, it's like, oh yeah, kind of neat, but it's a skill
I
you
don't
can
think you
develop.
need to. I
Yeah,
think
you
it's a
don't need
skill I've
to.
been developing, but a part of the reason why I haven't felt the need to develop it is because, like, right now, in terms of the priority and the type of things I'm working on right now, they don't necessarily require it. And it's a thing I've been wanting to build up time for, but when you're juggling so many projects, you just don't get around to it. So, I guess one like notable details, like, it's funny to see that as somebody who primarily works on rhythm games, and obviously charting a rhythm game did teach me a lot about music theory and music production, and also like had me involved with the direct
Mhm.
production of some music because of it. But I feel like at some point there's going to be a bit of a separation between my association exclusively on rhythm games and like just general games of all kinds. Like the kind of games I really want to make are closer to like kind of action RPG style games. um and like originally, before Unbeatable, like kind of my bread and butter projects I was making like in high school were like adventure games, like very small adventure games, minimal in combat or something of the sort. And I'm still making those kind of games on the side and whatnot. So I think at some point there will be kind of a point where it's like people may not associate me as the rhythm game producer, right?
I
Um,
I
and
mean,
just
yeah.
someone who can do a lot of different things too. But obviously, it's good to stand out as one feat in particular, and that isn't a bad way to stand out. So,
I mean, getting into my next point, you say you're like mainly known for rhythm games. I'm like, yeah, sure, but you also have a diverse like portfolio, like Mindwave, Space Mech Pilot, Margin of the Strange, A Nightmare's Trip, How Sora. Like outside of rhythm games, you have a very diverse portfolio, and it's like very hard to like describe other than the vibe. Like it's a very consistent vibe, but it's like hard to describe if it's to like if that makes sense.
Right. I've actually thought about that quite a bit. I think like the common running theme in a lot of the stuff I've put out is like sincerity. Is it
Hmm.
I want things to feel authentic to me and authentic to the people who made it, the people who get to like see like kind of understand um that like it's okay for works to not be perfect. And it's not that I'm intentionally trying to make games suck, right? But it's like it's a matter of I really want to focus a lot on the emotional core of an experience, and I will do anything in my power to achieve that, even if it means making the experience inherently worse. I really value the idea of making um, like not necessarily making games that aren't fun, but making games that mean something, that matter something to people. Because those are the kind of things that like I'm trying my best to deal with when it comes to like playing games. It's like, does this mean something to me? Is this saying something? Like it doesn't need to like speak to me and like solve my problems, but I wanted to say something, and I want there to be like some kind of thesis point, right?
Yeah.
um that a work is going for. And I thought about this a lot with these projects, like even like kind of smaller projects like Anonymous Stripper and Space My Pilot focused a lot on these things. I was very conscious of the fact that um like with a Nightmare's trip, that there would be this kind of core feeling of meeting people and seeing new things, right? But also like kind of reconnecting with a bit of yourself, which was very resonant with like the like because in that game, right, there's a lot of pictures of like Taiwan and Japan. I had returned to Taiwan for the first time in nearly like 7 years, like um when I was working on that game, and I was meant to meet up with like both my mom and dad's side of the family, for both of them it'd be the last time I'd see them actually,
Oh.
um in person before they all passed away, because they were like late 90s, like nearly 100 years old, so they were very old,
Oh.
right, on both sides of it. And it was kind of like one thing I had to face was the idea of like reconnecting with like my past and like my family and heritage, and that was a huge part of a Nightmare Strip's kind of core story and what I was running through it. Um, and similarly with Space Mech Pilot, it was a I think that one was very different because I focused a lot more on the systems and whatnot. But I really wanted to communicate not necessarily the total story of it, but the idea of making friends with somebody, like a long distance friendship with somebody, and that long distance friendship suddenly disappearing on you, which was actually a pretty that was a specific thread that happened with me and the person who designed the game's character.
Oh.
Was that like she did regularly disappear at points in my life, and would sometimes come back, sometimes not. Um, and that was reflected a lot in the game's writing.
Hmm.
So there's totally inspired by that. And I really want to make games that tell these kind of stories that um, there is a core there, and it is trying its hardest to tell it, even if it's not doing its best. But like you can feel that kind of energy there.
Yeah.
And like Unbeatable is really interesting because I actually didn't had as much impact on the narrative design for that, but like it speaks for a lot of the same design sensibilities that I have of my own personal projects.
Yeah.
And with the projects I've also helped publish too, like Vivid Stasis.
Yeah. I there's definitely like an inherent emotional core. I completely understand that. With it's been something I've been dealing with like my debut album. It's not the best, but it has very striking emotions for me, and I'm glad I was able to get it out the way it like came out. I'm glad that I was able to like translate my emotions, even if it wasn't perfect. And there's always just gonna, if it's not perfect this time around, there'll be another chance eventually, or like another
Right.
way to attempt it.
It's like if you focus so much on making something perfect, then like you you have to stop and think if you're actually making it for yourself or if you're making it for some kind of invisible customer. And then like the sincerity that like disappears, like evaporates, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
um it's essentially like willing to embrace like a kind of messy expressiveness about yourself, and not trying to sand down every single edge possible. And it's good to be very introspective and think very carefully about these things, but it's like you don't want to spend a gajillion years of your life trying to make this perfect thing, right? Um, and toiling all the way at it, only for it to just not mean anything when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and it's like the
Like
only
that's
thing you can get out.
it's the only thing you can get out, and it's like it's the only, and it doesn't say anything about you, right? Because you have
Yeah.
been so focused on making it like the ultimate best thing ever, right? You can possibly put out like that. Like if I'm not seeing like the like weaknesses within the work, like it's hard to see the person behind it, and it feels a lot less hollow. And it's interesting because especially for games with teams, like you can kind of feel that reflection in a lot of from different people from all sorts of different disciplines in every aspect of the game. Um, and like you can even feel this in even bigger like AAA games of hundreds
Mm.
of people, but there reaches a point where like uh and I get here's a I guess I can give a good example. So I recently played Pragmata, which is the big new Capcom
Oh,
game.
yeah.
And Pragmata, I think its biggest issue is that it feels like they really sanded down and tried to hone the game so specific to be like this very breezy, comfortable game that everyone will like. And by doing that, I think it really falls short of its potential, both narratively and both mechanically in its gameplay, because it's not willing to embrace its weirder mechanics, right? Just a smidge more, make something that's a lot more challenging and pushing the players a lot more. And its narrative is also not willing to challenge a lot, like explore a
Mm.
lot of more emotionally complex ideas, and wants to be more of like a all crowd pleasing popcorn story, kind of like. It's funny that it came out around the same time as Project Hail Mary, because I could also describe as Project Hail Mary as kind of similar in terms of like the kind of crowd pleaser
Mm.
um kind of deal. But I think in the case of Pragmata, it really falls flat towards the end because there is so much there that the game just does not just like runs out of time in terms of acknowledging. Um but like it does feel like they made a lot of things about that game feel
Mm.
pristine and perfect and polished.
I
They really wanted it to have the best possible impression. And it's like, but those were the worst parts of the game to me. And the best parts of the game were when I could see its more messy, less fluid ideas, and when they started kind of exploring and pushing it in different ways.
mm.
And then they kind of just don't do that towards the end of the game. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of wrapping this around the Unbeatable. It's like I would kind of describe Unbeatable as the same thing in terms of like I like the game. Observing it very closely, it's got a lot of weird, jagged edges to it that you wouldn't really notice if you were just not paying attention to it. And that's not to say that like it's a bad thing. Those edges make up the game itself. It's part of the bigger picture, but and if they didn't have those jagged edges, it wouldn't be the same game. But it's weird to observe them and see how it fights itself, I guess, is
yeah,
a way to
and
phrase it.
it's tough because it's not like we were trying to intentionally put a lot of jagged edges and stuff. Like no
Yeah.
one wants. Even when I'm not thinking very consciously when I'm working on games, being like, oh, like I really want to make sure this part of the game feels awful.
Yeah, no. Like it's
Like
not
it
something you
just
intentionally make. It's just
It's
part
not
of the
something that you intentionally
experience.
make. Yeah. It just ends up speaking for you. Like it ends up leaking in. The best way for you to not have that problem is for you and a group of people to just sand it off, like be able to catch it, sand it off, and just keep on sanding that and refining it um to a machine. And as somebody who wants to make a lot of different games, I am not here for that because I am not wasting my time in that kind of thing.
Mm.
And but I'm like in this weird middle where it's like because uh there are some indie teams that kind of have that mentality of like we're going to just take this great idea, we're just going to make it rough and tumble, just like get through this as quickly as possible, spit it out, work on the next thing, right? And I'm in that middle where I want to give it as much care and attention as I can, and make sure the end result is something that is like it says something, it is something like there is a feast. As I mentioned before, there's that thesis, right?
Mhm.
Um, like an actual core here, right? Resembling something that's trying to like it's trying to have meaning, right?
Yeah.
But like I'm not going to toil away at it because like there's so many other things I'm working on, like I want to work on. With Sky Hour stuff, especially, like I've been wanting to tell a cohesive story across all these different games. Um, so all the non-published games, all the stuff we're developing internally, are all kind of like set in the same universe. And I want to be able to tell a final story that would kind of be like a final cap off to all of the ideas that these games explored together. Um, so primarily things about reconnecting with people, and like strength in a community, right? Those are the kind of main consensus points that like are kind of built from different themes, from like the friendships to reconnecting with your heritage and family, right? Building that all together into one big explosive finale. And to get there, I'm going to need to make a lot of games that communicate this vision. A lot of these ideas that I've had since high school, which means I can't be too precious about any one particular idea. Otherwise, I waste 10 years of my life on one and it's never going to get done. And I'm actually
Yeah.
still having this problem because one of the projects we were working on for this is still not done. And I technically started development on it all the way back in 2019. So that game is like, I need this to get this scene out there at some point. That's the Read to See Voices the game question. I really need this to finish this shit so I can get onto stuff that I personally am a little more excited about. But it's such a pretty pivotal part in this universe, and I think it is kind of like, if you imagine like an essay, right? And there's like the thesis, right? This is like kind of the
Mm.
initial introduction of that thesis. Whereas like you could almost say a Nightmare Strip and Space for Palette were kind of like prologue, like companion prologue pieces to it. So I need this thesis to like this like starting paragraph to exist first before I can finish the rest of the essay. Um, that's kind of how I've been structuring these projects in my mind. But
Oh yeah.
I have plenty of time to make these, but I have a feeling I'm going to need to just be a lot less precious about how I'm developing these, so I can get them out. I also need to be more wealthy than I currently am right now, I think.
That's fair. That's
Yeah,
like eternal issue.
yeah.
Kind of moving on from your portfolio and all that. Well, actually, still kind of tangentially related. Something I noticed with your portfolio is that Unbeatable's collaborations so far have kind of matched the sort of vibe of not only being all over the place, but also still very genuine and close to everyone's hearts, even on the team. More specifically, I guess One Shot is the big one
Mhm.
that was like out of left field. No one could really predict that. Um, yeah,
Which is funny because we talked about that one shot collab for a long time, like I think at least over a year. It was an idea we've had for a decent chunk of the game's production, as like a thing we would do post launch. And Knight was into the idea, but like I think the idea got brought up again closer to the game's release, like around like December, shortly after in January,
mhm,
where we actually started seriously talking about turning the idea into something. And there's a lot of collabs, right, that we've done so far that I think for the most part we really want to put together something that like we're excited about, that we're willing to do something cool and special for. And yeah, like it's interesting. I think One Shot is a very good example of the what I kind of like I want to describe as kind of like the standard we want to set for these kind of things, where we are able to take and make something very special and new and meaningful for both our community and that game's community, right? Because like
yeah,
it's really exciting to, for example, like with Archaea and Thrift of the Necrodancer, like exchange songs and bring our songs into each other's games, right? But those songs have already existed. The new thing that would exist would be the charts, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a thing, right?
yeah,
And it's not the big thing. Whereas like even if you don't give a fuck about Unbeatable and never will play the game, like the new one shot track is kind of awesome, and
yeah,
it pays homage to not just that one really goofy side track that exists in the original one shot soundtrack, but it also references like one of the game's main leitmotifs.
mhm,
Um, and like there was a lot of like really fun flourishes in that track by some of us on the team that had played the game before. Like I know both me and Vasily have played the game specifically.
mm,
Well, so like the person who wrote the lyrics, he had
uh,
played the game like
oh yeah.
himself. Um, so yeah,
I
like I really like that kind of effort, and it's hard though because like that was still a pretty huge effort, and we're like working on the Jamie Page DLC and other things on top of it. So it's like,
yeah,
yeah, like we can't do these all the time, and we kind of have to pick and choose their battles. But like we've been very happy about the discussions we've had in terms of like bringing some of these things together, and there's still more on the way. So I'm really excited about that.
oh yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
I really want to set a good standard for
mm,
this of like I want to give back to these games when we bring it together. Do you make something new that's exciting and interesting? Because
mm.
again, I think simple Sonic changes is like it's such a normal tradition, but it's kind of also like not the most attention grabbing. And I think especially for Unbeatable's audience who are very different from kind of traditional rhythm game spaces, the idea of just having a song from some other game that doesn't necessarily match Unbeatable, it's not that interesting, right? You're here for a very specific style of music.
Yeah.
And we want to adapt those works to be interpreted in our style, um, making something new and different as a result while still retaining and like Unbeatable's kind of tone,
Mhm.
which is very important to us. I think tone tends to matter a lot less for some of these rhythm games, but uh, surprisingly, despite what people claim, like they do care about it, right? It's
Yeah.
just that they have a lot more commonality. We just see there's a bit of a difference for Unbeatable where it kind of stands out a little too much from these other games. So yeah.
And speaking more so on One Shot, I mentioned earlier before we started recording that I played through an entire game for the first time for an interview. That would be
Well, so
One Shot.
I had a feeling it was one shot when you mentioned it was a game I had not worked on.
Yeah, this
So
game that I can definitely see why it like inspired you to start working on game dev, like related things. I I have no words for it. It was such a magical experience. The way it not only uses game the game itself tells the story with like shit. You have to go into the well, spoilers for One Shot. If you haven't played it, go play it. Um, using like the game's files and messing around with them to solve puzzles, even if they're like relatively simple, was still cool. Having it
mhm.
change the wallpaper, like that kind of shit. That kind of shit paired with like the visuals and the music and everything, I can see why it inspired you and so many other people. I'm glad to have finally played it.
Yeah, and like the thing for one shot was like the way it connected you to the experience. Like, I feel like while the puzzles inherently were pretty basic and can even be kind of read as somewhat gimmicky, the appeal and reason why they work the way they do is that they really connect you to the game. It's and the
Hmm.
main like character Nico, right? It convinces you that there is a real genuine connection here. And there is something worth being like worth investing yourself into, worth like being enthralled in. And like yeah, it really had a huge impact on me because I realized they could say it said a lot about these themes, about connecting with people, and about understanding like each other's emotions, even if you are like physically unable to, like incapable of doing so, which was the case of like the World Machine, right?
Hmm.
And I really like that like kind of balance of intent, um, growing to understand intent, um, and like embracing and accepting like so like not necessarily circumstances, but like essentially learning to love and treat things as real even if they aren't, right?
Hmm.
Because there was a pretty major plot point establishing that when like the world of one shot is not as real as it seems. And it is a very interesting paradox because the game spends the whole time convincing you this world is real, right? Or at least
Yeah.
not that the world is inherently real, but that there is a real person that's a part of it, by kind of explicitly spelling it out like none of these people matter, right?
Hmm.
um like it's asking you to evaluate like would you still care for these fiends and these people even if they weren't like if they were just fiction, and the answer is obviously yes because the
Yeah.
way we attach ourselves to fiction, to ideas, is way more complicated than a very binary this is not a real thing or this is just a fiction, this is just like this is not reality.
Hmm.
The way we fixate ourselves into it, the way we interpret, extrapolate, engross ourselves, like those are genuine feelings and emotions that come out of it. And like one shot was kind of like a like in my words like feelings like the whole thesis of it is about embracing and protecting that side of you. And like that really inspired me to make games because I really wanted to also make stuff that could communicate those kind of feelings too, as well as communicate my own feelings, like to feel
Hmm.
such a very like close like relationship with the game and its themes and its characters, and it's like I want to be able to do that too. Like it was such
Yeah.
an inspiring game when I played it in high school,
Mhm.
and uh like pretty much almost immediately after I wanted to make my own like games that would be able to recontextualize the way we interact with the world and the way we interact with like the way we interact with the world through games
Mhm.
specifically. So yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, I don't know. Like those it's a huge part of it. One shot's very interesting also because like I think it hit at a very good time in my life where I felt really lonely and didn't have a lot of people to really connect to or be like open and honest about myself. Like, I was kind of worried about how like other people would see me. I had been like bullied for a lot of like my elementary and middle school life. My friend
Mhm.
circle was a bunch of kind of like equal-minded like people who also went through those kind of things, but like essentially rather than being more honest upfront and caring, like became more closed off, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Like kind of playing a lot into the things that hurt us, right, as a group. um and one shot was like a way, it was like kind of like my breakaway from that, like an escape from that, like that that interpretation and like view on life, which I think is a very negative one to have.
Yeah.
And like allowed me to connect with so many important people in my life. It did so much for me. Like one shot's why I met the people I did, why I met my partner, um,
Oh.
like why I got into making games. Like it means a lot to me. So that collab, like when I mentioned online, like this is like the game I got like this exact moment of this collab release is like a big deal for me personally. Um, it meant a lot, and it was also something that I was like really grateful that people on the team like were interested in the idea of and willing to explore,
Mm.
and also like willing to make it silly because
Yeah, it is a very
like
silly collab.
it's because it's like it's silly on paper. Like when you're collabing with one shots, like you're thinking about the game's music and it's like kind of atmospheric tone. It doesn't really
Yeah.
line up at all with Unbeatables whatsoever. Um and like even like the original like track, the whole conceit of that track was like it was kind of fantasizing Nico as this awesome like cop fighting hero, right? But Unbeatable is not a game of not cop fight, like crime fighting hero, right? But Unbeatable is a game where you are the one committing a crime, right?
Mhm.
So like recontextualizing and like kind of re-examining that tone, that feeling, which is largely a joke, if anything, was a very fun thing for the sound team to
Yeah.
do. And something I'm really glad they were able to pull through, especially during kind of like really tight schedules. Like we're not a big
Mhm.
team,
Yeah.
so it was a very difficult effort. Originally, we wanted to see the possibility of releasing it in March, but that was not possible just because of a lot of different deadlines and stuff coming up. And March would have been nice because that would have been spring equinox and well, so specifically solstice.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, which
yeah,
would have
which
fit
has a
in.
huge, it would have fit in pretty well, but
Yeah.
I think the extra time's fine. And whatnot. Like there was actually a plan that if we couldn't get it to release, then we could announce it on solstice, like during the ninth year anniversary of the solstice update. Or is it eighth year? I think it's eighth year. But that the fact that was it's so long ago already is crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. I feel like a different generation of people are like picking up this game and growing attached to it. But like I can also understand like if you didn't grow up with this game the way I did, like it might not end up clicking for people.
Um,
Like I think you kind of fit the around like the exact age range in terms of this game's appeal
yeah.
almost.
I found it
Yeah,
at the right time, perfect, like, honestly. It
yeah,
definitely it after having some, like, really harsh news after the, like, during, like, last weekend, being able to play it and just kind of, like, separate myself and just connect with a new world, and, yeah, it was yeah, I like I said, I can't say much about it, mostly because I don't have the words to explain the feeling, but my god, I yeah. And I guess it's also kind of surreal that you're now working with that team on a new game, Margin of the Strange.
yeah. And so I have very strong memories with after I got into the game, like I would start like showing up in like live streams that Night Merchant did, and getting to talk with them and get to know them, and hang out with them at cons and stuff. Right. But one of the particular games that came like one of the things that came up was like a lot of their past work before One Shot. So specifically they had like this webcomic concept they were building for years called Margin. And it largely featured the same characters and was like relatively the same scenario. But not like they always had dreamed of turning this into like a full proper story. And obviously Flash is kind of dead in the water. So like the best way to build this exact story right now is to do it as a video game. And the way that came together was very funny because I wasn't really expecting to be a part of it, but I ended up slipping into that anyways and helping with like a lot of the early aspects of the project as well as the Kickstarter. And I am set to do more stuff for the game again, just because I'm finally free with more time and also could use a little bit of the extra money to be honest. But like uh that's a game that like I'm really excited for people to see because in a lot of ways, like while One Shot was a very like comprehensive and very interesting concept like fleshed out after like its like original RPG Maker version, which I played, and then the final Steam version, right? But like this specific story concept has been cooking for such a long time, but it has also morphed so much because of like recent interest and tastes. Like from Night Margin and also from myself as well. Even though I didn't have a direct hand on the game's design, like just from the way we were expressing like initial conversations about this, as well as the fact that it ended up exposing Night Margin to Outer Wilds, right?
Oh.
Like at some point, like like a few years ago, so many aspects of this game kind of evolved and changed in a way that I probably wouldn't have if Night committed to the game concept much earlier, which is interesting for sure. And it's an honor to be a part of that project too, because like again, this is like one of their like this is the thing that their username is based off of, right? Like, so
Yeah.
it's a bit of a interesting and cool project, but I'm not the best person to speak on it because like to be honest, in the final months of Avita's development, I just told them like, "Hi guys, I'm sorry, I can't do anything on this project. I can't. Like, I need to
Yeah.
finish this thing, and I will come back when I can." Like, which uh I feel really bad about because obviously I really want to help this team get this game across to the finish line, and the 1-2 punch of like being like offered the opportunity to help develop this project as well as Unbeatable's Kickstarter succeeding back in 2021 was what made me pursue my career full time. Um, so I feel like similar to Unbeatable, I have an obligation to see this to the end, right?
Yeah.
But one of these was extremely getting to the end, and I needed to make sure it made it. So that took precedent for last year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But now it's over the finish line for the most part. You just like there's still post-game content, but that could just be worked on when it needs to be worked on.
yeah, I would say that. But unfortunately, it's oddly been very busy despite that. But
Mhm.
it's been at a more manageable pace, I'd say.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like everything's going to end. We know how people are responding to the game now. We know the things that we can do better about and whatnot.
Mhm.
And there's still like lots of things we're still trying to work through as a studio, as well as our future, right?
Mhm.
Because to be honest, like just everything in the industry is super uncertain right now, and like
Yeah.
like
Ugh.
that aspect of it has not changed, even with Unbeatable's release. So it's just a matter of figuring out like what is my place going to be when it's all done. And I think that was also kind of a sad thing for a lot of us too when we finished this game was like what's next for all of us. Like obviously we want to keep on doing stuff together and we're working on plans for that, right? But it's like like it was almost this fear of like this kind of moment of a huge group of people with like lots of really like great design sensibilities and really enjoyed working together despite like a lot of troubles and struggles. Like we really loved working together as a group, and it was sad to see that end in a sense, even though it hasn't technically completely ended. Like we're still doing post content, we're still getting people
Yeah.
to do lots of cool stuff for the game, and like the reception obviously has brought a lot of us together because of the fact that we now have a finished work that we can all call ours and whatnot. So, but yeah, it's a very weird. You've come at a very interesting point in my life where I'm still kind of figuring out what I want to do, right, with everything now that it's done. Like, do I want to just buckle down on personal projects? But like, I do need to still like pay the bills and helping Unbeatable's post launch content while like bringing the team towards new projects has like been a huge priority just to ensure I can pay my bills, right?
Hmm.
And fund traveling to places. Just
Yeah.
because I have been traveling a lot in recent months too. Um, like doing things like that. Or do I want to like first like prioritize personal projects? You know, maybe there's a world where personal projects could be that supplement and like allow me to like pursue my passions a bit more. I know especially with stuff like Spaceback Pilot, like there was like a lot of potential there for that to have a bigger audience. And if I like committed time to it, maybe that could have been the case. Um, right. Or like do I want to like I'm in this point where like when I was like younger, like I was very like hungry and pushing myself to be involved with lots of things. And you know, now that I'm older, a lot more tired and also wanting to have a bit more of a life outside of just making these things.
Hmm.
Because partly because not just because of the exhaustion and just because I'm enjoying a lot of the experiences I'm having outside of games, but like also because if I wasn't having these experiences, I think my works would be less fulfilling and interesting.
Yeah.
Um, like but like there's like now that I have a lot of these things, I'm trying to figure out like exactly how to balance it to be healthier for me and going forward and what exactly I can do and commit to. And there's a lot I want to do, but I can't do it all. So which is a good problem to have maybe on paper, you know, as
Yeah.
opposed to having nothing to do. But there's so much of it I want to do. Like it's not fair. There's so many different games that I really want to work on. Lots of really cool concepts from different friends that are like I'm like involved with in minor parts, but like you know depending on the situation I can't commit to, and it's just yeah, there's so many things, just a lot.
Yeah. It's unfortunate having so much you want to work on, but not having enough energy or time to work on all the things at the same kind of like force.
Yeah, and it's also because it's coming at a clash of like me trying to actually build a life outside of exclusively sinking myself into my work. Like,
Hmm.
I have less time than I used to because of this. Um, like, and I also just have less energy because I'm dealing with like some of these things, plus like some minor health problems, right, getting in the way too. Um, Working and finishing on Unbeatable among like other things like took a lot of like a huge toll on me physically. So it's like, um I'm still kind of recuperating from all of that, as is like a lot of people on the team and like a lot of other things. Like it's just been very tough to kind of manage exactly how I want to proceed further with like everything that's going on. But I do feel very certain that I will still be doing this for quite some time. I will still be pushing myself to help with like other game projects, like with publishing at least. That's something I really enjoy doing with B Block and Vivid Stasis and the
Hmm.
Electronics. Um, and I feel very committed to telling that personal story with those with the Sky Hour Works games. So I do want to be able to focus on them at some point in my life, but I'm also not in a rush for that, and think I can condense them in ways to be able to tell that full story before I die, which is kind of the main target. Is like you know, there's no retirement for me till I'm done with that at least. And I think there's such a bright future for D Cell and this like wonderful group of people,
Hmm.
as well as for Unbeatable. So it's a thing that I still want to commit to and you know have not given up on
Yeah.
uh, and whatnot. So
Yeah. Speaking of D-Cell, what is the biggest lesson you've learned ever since co-founding D-Cell and being a part of that?
um so the thing I like there's two lessons I could give. Like one that's like more game specific, like what to do when approaching the game
Get
work, and like
both.
and then one with just like life, I guess. But with the game one, it's like you one major thing that helped us with the success of Unbeatable was learning to like kind of understand what the game's voice and tone was, right? And
Hmm.
really learning how to embrace and speak it. Like Unbeatable feels so personifiable, so recognizable because we understood like what this game was, what we want it to say, what we want it to be, and what we want people to see it as. To the point where you could like the way I described it is like you should understand your game like you're like you know the like you're imagining them as a person and you can hear their voice and you can hear the
Mm.
things that they would say to a person in like a normal conversation. That's the kind of mindset I had when it came to working on Unbeatable with people. And I've carried that mindset forward to a lot of other games. So like just learning to speak like your game also, because when you start talking to people, there's two challenges, right? One, communicating the game's vision to people, to your own team, right? Kind of figuring out how to achieve and tell this voice. Like if you understand how you should be, understand what this game is like going to be and how to speak it, right? And understand like where to like which parts of it are fully like yours that you can express and which ones kind of need the assistance of other people to kind of flesh out together, right? Like you're controlling this like big Gundam or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Um like it really impacts and influences a lot of the game's design. The other part of it too is it helps a lot with like naturally marketing and getting attention to your game. It's like if you do not speak your game like a conventional social media post, being like, "Hey, like do you like these games?" It's like that game like kind of deal, and instead like actually like standing on your own. And like again talking like your game, right? Like people see those posts and they they can tell they are talking like they stop seeing it as like a this is a person making a post to market something to like this is the game talking to me and trying to tell me to play it, right?
Uh,
That's the kind of thing we were going for, while also still making it very clear there's a person behind the wheel there, right? So it's
yeah.
um like there's still a person talking to you and trying to convince you to buy this thing, but the way they talk matches the tone of the game so much that you can kind of almost replace them as this is unbeatable talking to me, right, as opposed to like this is a social media like manager talking to me.
That that
Yeah.
makes so much sense considering what y'all post on the Unbeatable Twitter and Blue Sky.
Yes, and actually you can tell that they're tonally different, right? So like,
Yeah.
um, so that's because the Blue Sky is handled by RJ primarily, and the Twitter is me. So,
Oh, that
um,
yeah, that checks out.
originally RJ did both, but RJ just stopped caring about Twitter. But unfortunately, our player base is super popular on Twitter, so it's like we still have to
Uh,
commit to it, and I want to leave this stupid fucking site.
I
But
I I completely
it's like a
agree.
discourse a day. Everybody's basically like regurgitating and like a lot of the same talking points that you've heard in like Gamergate and like fucking 2012, like everywhere, every
Yeah.
day, and it's exhausting. But like because a lot of the younger user base is still using Twitter right now, like, and a lot of them are still like we still have an obligation to kind of keep up with Unbeatable. So at the very least, what I'm trying to do is like just trying to I change the tone to not necessarily be how RJ approaches the Blue Sky, which has always been more lax and casual, goofy and silly, but like is very much clearly a person, right, and
Hmm.
not just some like fake account. I wanted to be very clear that like Unbeatable's account is clearly handled by a person. It is a person behind the wheel there, right? But this person is talking a little closer to how the game try to talk to you, but like not necessarily the idea of Unbeatable the game. But like imagine like a video game going to you being like, "Hey, you should play me," and like talk to me about things like
Yeah.
um so, and trying to keep it a little more, a lot less vague because I get the impression that like on Twitter at least, like people sometimes can take things quite literally, and almost
Yeah.
do all the time. So things have to be a lot more explicit and way less coy, and whatnot, because otherwise people would get pissed. I mean, like some of the things RJ posted on or Discover posted on Twitter, people would be very annoyed because they would be like, "You're promising something that didn't happen," or "You're saying this and
Yeah.
that, but not addressing this other thing," and it's like, well,
Yeah.
we're just normal people. We're not having ARGs in like every single one of our posts or whatever, and it doesn't like just because we posted an image that like means this thing doesn't actually mean that. Um,
Yeah. I can tell what
so
post you're talking about with that one.
yeah, so
Yeah, it's with Twitter specifically, I recently deleted it off my phone and I only keep it to like my desktop and I only check it if I need to post something or check DMs. And every time I've opened it, it's just been some bullshit. Just
pretty
some
much, yeah.
prime bullshit. Nothing. I mean, there's like clips or still like shit like that are like specific to Twitter. Um, like I guess a thing that's like was positive. But I don't know if you've like been were aware of it. But underscores did a U-Haul pop up in New York,
Hmm.
and I saw nothing about it on Blue Sky. Twitter, though, they were like 5 clips a minute, and it was insane the stuff they were getting up to. But it's like, yeah, it's one of the few times where I'm glad I checked Twitter, but God, I really need Twitter to either change or I need everybody who posts on Twitter to just keep that energy to Blue Sky, but without the discourse. I cannot handle Twitter anymore. for the most part. Getting off of it on my phone was probably one of the best decisions I've made in recent memory.
Yeah, no, totally. And like to be honest, I'm like on the verge of doing it because like
You got.
I see I really want to. And just having one place to keep up also will keep things a lot like me a lot less online and just able to kind of spend time more with people uh and whatnot. But I still need to manage the Beatable accounts. Like,
Yeah,
probably will keep
it's
it on my desktop. But yeah, I am kind of like steering, like kind of planning an exit at some point. I think like once like comes out, like that's something that I want to like figure out. But
yeah,
yeah.
cannot recommend it enough. Um,
Mhm.
kind of jumping to like a completely different experience. Where the questions now are gonna get like a lot more random, but also a lot more silly. Not
Okay.
let's um this one I was having a conversation in the full combo like staff server about it. We were wondering how much it costs for music licensing, and I was on the impression of it's probably the most expensive part about rhythm games is the music licensing, depending on
Depends
what
on the game.
depends on the
Am I
game. We were
That
talking
really
about
depends on
five
the game.
five
So
fret games specifically.
which game?
Like five fret like the five fret genre of like Guitar Hero
Oh,
Rock
so
Band.
so it depends. Sometimes they get licenses with like a whole label, which means they can just kind of pick anything from there. Like it really depends on what you negotiate. On our side of things, like because we're a smaller team, we are able to get away with like slightly cheaper licenses and stuff like that. And that tends to work out, but it really varies on stuff. And also like depends on the conditions. Like, is this going to
Mhm.
be a permanent license? Is this a timed license? Right? What platform is this game going to be on? That's actually a really big deal, by the way. Number of platforms and even the type of platform it is, like if it's VR, if it's a console game, if it's arcade, really affects stuff.
Huh.
Arcade is a good example because, and I could talk about this all day because I've been dealing with this stuff like all the time. Arcade is a really good example because when like legally speaking, arcade games play music, it's treated like a public performance, which means
Huh.
the licensing and conditions and the tone is very different. It's actually a lot easier to license a song in a console game than it is an arcade game as a result.
That's
And because it's treated as like a live public performance thing, usually most games that try to license songs can only do them timed licenses. Which is a thing like a very interesting challenge, and it's kind of
mhm.
almost becoming the norm for like pop licenses to be a time based thing. Um, but like for us for Unbeatable, like we really want to make sure the licenses stay permanently, and that can also be a challenge too, in terms of like coordination and also comfort. Some companies just don't want to have their songs eternally on a theme forever. Some artists don't also feel that way either.
Mhm.
But like when our audience is going to be upset if we remove a song from a game, right? We have to figure out a way to make that arrangement work. And it also depends on what we're doing. Like sometimes like artists may be more willing to um have different prices depending on how much we're putting ourselves into it, right? The context of the collaboration, the context of the way that we're using the license, like a lot of that can change so much. So the answer really is it depends.
Mm.
Like I can't speak too much directly to the kind of licensing deals we've done and how that works, but I can tell you that like based off of conversations I've had, different people ask for different things. Sometimes they're just like, yeah, we can just do this. This is easy. And some people were like, sure, like there's just take the song, right? That's
Mhm.
easy enough. Yeah, take the song for nothing. But others are like, I want to know like how many sales your game has had and what regions you're available in, and I need to know the full scale and scope of it to give you a cost, right? And to give you restrictions and things because we don't want our music to suddenly show up in this thing that we're not aware of, right?
Yeah.
um like or whatnot. We had a very like another good example is like certain songs from Unbeatable like are licensed, right?
Mhm.
um but like one of them, I can't say which one just because of like like
Mm.
security reasons and whatnot.
Yeah.
Theoretically is a timed license, but it's also not. It's a time license that if we were to like add it and append it to like later platforms and things like that, we would need to
Um.
renegotiate the license again. But it can theoretically continue to exist in the existing versions that are out. And I can tell you this is very similar to what Pump It Up, the Korean dance game does. And they have to do it this way because of the fact their games also work offline. Because those games are allowed to work offline, meaning the songs can stay in the version permanently if the operator never upgrades, right?
Mhm.
Um, which is a very different scenario from like the Konami games, like Dance Dance Revolution specifically is always online now. Like you can't run that game offline; it will fail. And for this reason, they can actually control licenses, and they can literally remove it while the game is still online. Like they can disable the song and just remove it from the game. Uh, I think it's the Ariana Grande song, "No Tears Left to Cry."
Huh.
Um, that song it was in DDR. It was getting removed. Yeah, I think it got removed during Dance Dance Revolution Ace 3. And when I was playing the song. Literally right after my credit finished, the song disappeared on the next credit because it was supposed to be removed at the set time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like they can do these things. It's a little more complicated with console games. It's a lot more complicated with games that are always online, require online access. Is the sun, the data, etc. Like it's really, really complicated, and um, part of the challenge is like kind of seeing what people are comfortable with, and if they can align with what you can do for the game, or if you have to change and make certain accommodations for it. If there's one thing I always could wish for, it's like people have a better like understanding and patience about how licenses for these games work, because I know a lot of people can be frustrated when like a song gets removed or when something is no longer available for purchase, right, and stuff like that. Because like sometimes like those restrictions, like no, like us developers would love to keep these songs in these games forever. Like we don't want this stuff removed, generally speaking, more if we can help it. Like we would love it to be permanent content to stay available always. Um, unless like there's a reason like we're into like the kind of limited timeness of it, which we can be, but most of the time we're not. Most of the time we want the stuff to be in there forever. um Sometimes this is the only way to let that content ever be in the game, period.
Mhm.
And while we have kind of like a role of like if we can't make it permanent, then we probably won't do it, right? There is a world where there could be something that's just too good to put in the game, like something that's too good, too
Mhm.
special to not do, but it can't be permanent, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I can obviously imagine like the disappointment communities and fans would have, but it's like, but it's that, or we just never do it. And would you prefer the world where we never did this, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the kind of challenge there. I think it's understandable people feel this way because FOMO is such a huge part of modern games and is deliberately used and manipulated against players. But I think the in some cases that's not explicitly a bad thing. Sometimes it is intentional by design to make fiends feel special, for fiends to not last forever. But in other cases it's just out of our control, and like we just can't keep it in there forever because another party doesn't want it to.
Mhm.
And like yeah, that those are real considerations to keep in mind. It's like, is that the intended experience? Is that something that is mostly a concession to make the fiend happen at all? Like these are the kind of things I wish people understood a bit more about the genre, rather than just kind of being upset anytime something gets removed, because again, it's like it's not really fully in our control. And like this is a thing that arcade rhythm game players are very used to, that the licenses being removed over time after a set period. Um, right.
Mhm.
But like I've seen these kind of high profile removals in like console rhythm games and stuff, and people really lash out about it and are really upset about it in a way that like if they played these arcade games, these people would die, right? Like the amount of I think like the pop J-pops and anime folder is like 40 songs in the latest version of the game in the US. That's minus like 10 of them. An additional
Ooh.
10 that are Japan and Asia only. And on top of that, if you added every song that was previously in that folder that had been removed, that's some point to be over 200 songs. Like
Jesus.
a lot of these songs have been removed over time. So this is a game that's been running for nearly 10 plus years. So like that's a lot of song removals over time. But like those songs would have never been in the game if it wasn't for that, right?
Mhm.
Like it would have just not had these cool songs, right? So I don't know. Like it's a take it or leave it kind of thing. Um and like the players are used to that. because a lot of the songs that people stay for, a lot of the songs that give the game its identity are permanent usually, right?
Mhm.
So, and for Unbeatable, right? It's like most of the music is the original music, right? So like that stuff is
Yeah.
always going to stay there and be a part of the game, right? Like at least that's the way I see it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's completely fair.
yeah.
It's interesting how, like, I was kind of expecting the answer of "it depends," but I didn't expect how in-depth it was gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, because it like if I say it depends, it's like okay, next
Well,
question. But it's
yeah,
like,
and
yeah, there's a real reason why it depends, and like I have seen so many different types of licensing deals and offers, and also seen how different games approach this and how different groups respond to the games in their formats, and like it makes a big difference when it comes to these things. Like there's certain types of licenses that would be like essential for some games to get, and for other games, impossible,
yeah.
basically. Like getting most J-pop and anime songs, if you're not like Kaiko no Tatsujin, is very difficult for a console game, I think.
Mm.
Um, because of the type of restrictions that exist. And also the parties that are interested in that kind of thing. Um, in general. Like but on the other hand, like those songs sometimes when they show up, they can stay permanently in the game. They can stay living in the game because those publishers the publishers and labels are usually in agreement. This is a game that exists as a single product, and like you can't just remove content from the game like in over time. It's not like a live service, right? It's not like a
Mhm.
streaming platform or a public performance, right? Like the arcade games are. Um, so again, it all changes based off of the context, the game, and which unfortunately massive label company is holding your favorite song.
Yeah, it's kind of not to like I had no questions planned about the whitelist and all that, but it is the same kind of deal where unfortunately a lot of the music that you would want someone would want to put in a customs for customs are
Hmm.
not held by the artist. They're more so held by the label. And the label, depending on what size and how it is with it, probably would not fly with that. And it's while disappointing, it's very understandable.
Yeah, the music licensing situations, like it's so convoluted and messy, and like there's so
Mm.
much that's there that's hard to explain or convey to people. So there is it's not the easiest thing to boil down, and it's not the easiest for people to understand and accept. It's just
Mm.
what it is, right?
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
At least like in terms of my own opinion on it, I'm glad that you and the rest of the team have so much respect for artists in terms of like what y'all do for licensing and the whitelist itself. I don't think a lot of games would have that sort of care.
I think a lot of it helps. What helps is that we are artists ourselves, and we do
Hmm.
care about how people use our music. So it just kind of feels hypocritical when we don't do extend the same to other people. And also because the way we see it with Unbeatable, so much of what people come to for the game is like not just the original music, but for the way we offer the track list for the game. Um, like we're not just throwing in every single possible song we can license and trying to
Hmm.
make like a big slam like pack. Like if we are going to throw in songs, right, from just any other thing, right, we want to make sure it fits with Unbeatable, with the rest of the track list and etc. And it does we want variety, so we don't want it to all just be that one garage rock tone.
Yeah.
For example, like the Archaea Crossing Pulse thing, like that style of music is like with a small cloud sugar candy, like is there's some elements of that in other tracks in Unbeatable, but it's very much a different style song. But like, overall, like we really want to make sure like this feels a suitably unbeatable pick, right? And we're not just
Mhm.
throwing in every possible song that like we can add to it to
Yeah.
add to the game, right? And bloat it with too much stuff that differs from what the tone of the game is.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really that's really reflected in that as well, in how we approached the game as well. I think for customs, it's a very interesting challenge because the moment you do customs, like that intentionality can get drowned out by people just putting whatever they want in there. So like nothing inherently wrong with that because it is
Yeah.
fun to do that, right? But um like there is a world where we want people to see Unbeatable and not see that explicitly, oh, this is a game where you can throw any song at, right? This is a game where when like you can tell people are behind the decisions for what songs appear. They are very, very deliberate decisions, often argued by a lot of people on the team, right? Like even if there is like if I came to the team and I was like, hey, this is artist that I really like, can we get them in the game? Like I don't get the full say of who I pick. Like it's just like there's like a lot of back and forth and lots of arguing and lots of people like
Mm.
nominating picks and picking which ones feel right for the game and stuff like that. Like there's a real intent to like really think deeply about the things
Yeah.
we're adding to the game, right?
That's
And this is not a knock against other rhythm games, but like
mhm.
they are trying to grab as many things as possible, right? They want to grab originals that matches the tone and aesthetic of the game while finding lots of licenses and variety tracks to like kind of invite people into the game, and mainly because they levels are kind of songs are purely seen as levels and as content, right? So just make as many as possible, make your game as big as possible. And for us, we're not particularly concerned about making the biggest game possible, but we want that track list to feel very special and unique,
Yeah.
in terms of like what we're adding.
Yeah.
Which is why like our collaborations could be considered pretty oddball, right? Because it's like, yeah, you could see us collaborating with every rhythm game under the sun, sure. And I would love that very much, actually. Sega, if you're hearing this, I want to talk. And also Konami, but you know,
Mm.
Sega, please. But like the reality of it is like for us is like there's a type of like if we're gonna be collaborating with a bunch of other games, like it can dilute the space that we're playing into. And I also think the complexity and scale of the collaborations are very limited often for other rhythm game collaborations. And while we want to break the mold on that, there's a lot of room right now to explore with like more general indie game collaborations. Um like we saw this a little bit before what Brace Yourself Games is doing with uh Rift of the Necrodancers DLC, where they're taking a
Yeah.
lot of music from other indie games, but we want to take it to another level of adapting these types of games into the rhythm game experience. So making bespoke rhythm game tracks and remixes and like things with these characters, having them like appear as playable characters, like building challenges around these songs and doing all sorts of unique aspects. Like if we were to say do a fuller collab, but just like even with the song editions, like it goes back to what I said earlier about wanting to make it goes back to what I said earlier about wanting to give something to both communities when we do a collaboration, right? Like
Mhm.
just taking a song from another like game, whatever it be, another rhythm game or another like game altogether, like just anything, right? Does not feel right because like then like we get something, but the other community like it's more of like an ad for them. Like, hey, you like this song? It's in this game, and you can press buttons in time to it, and it's like cool. But if you don't care about the game, there's nothing there for you.
Yeah.
And that's a thing I want to like be able to tap into a bit more, even with like the rhythm game space. Like, you know, you've
Mhm.
already heard songs like Energy Synergy Matrix and Pupa and stuff like a million times over in all these other games. Wouldn't it be cool if we did something more like interesting and unique with them? Right. That's kind of like the mindset I'm having in when it comes to figuring out how to bring these songs and stuff into Unbeatable proper. Not announcing or claiming anything, just like, you know, like
Yeah.
there's a reason why we have not gotten the conventional rhythm game songs like Freedom Dive and whatnot in Unbeatable, because it's like, you
You've
know,
heard
they
it too
don't
many you've heard it
you've
so many
heard it
times
in
that it
every other game, and I think if you're going to hear it in this game, it should match what we're doing just a bit more and bring something new that we like is fresh for the song, is fresh for us, right? And
yeah.
like and whatnot. And like
I I completely get that. I'm kind of in the same boat with you for customs. When I was originally planning, this is like personal anecdote for the Unbeatable Twit Discord server. I made a presentation that covered like a bunch of games to get into after if you've played Unbeatable. Um, and after that presentation, I was planning on making a second one for when customs came out. And specifically, one of the points was make make sure to add music that well make sure there's like an emphasis on music that fits the world of Unbeatable. Even if it's not like too like even if it's not the same sound. I mean hell, per example that's in the game, there's a Must Die remix. there's
Yeah.
that. I'm still I still cannot believe that remix is in the game, even though it's been around since White Label. It's like it's a very specific sound for me that I do see inside like the like original music for the game, but it's also just so surreal seeing it just by itself.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
And
that totally makes sense because it's like it's not just like a single type of sound. Like
yeah.
the Unbeatable is a very expressive work that has a lot of different types of sounds and veins to it. And I think embracing that is much more interesting than just playing exclusively to the one style that I think people most associate the game with,
Hmm.
primarily that like garage like anime style rock. Um, and yeah, like uh at least like one hope that I have for customs is customs would better facilitate a space where like artists would directly collaborate with like people, or rather participate directly themselves, right? Get their like feet wet with like developing charts and stuff. Because
Hmm.
actually, um one major detail about the Bomani games that I think is really interesting is most of the people that charted early Bomani games and even the more recent ones are the musicians. They do the charts themselves.
Yeah.
Like they know their music best, right? Because they literally made the compositions and stuff, and sometimes even designed the compositions around specific challenges. Like DDR's first boss song was like the fastest BPM of any of the songs in the game, right?
Hmm.
Um, and definitely felt like it was designed to push for specific rhythms and specific challenges. Like I wanted to see that kind of space where people would inspired by picking up music because of they played a beat because that's like a common anecdote I've heard from a lot of people. So a lot of people picked up
Yeah.
the guitar and picked the music production stuff because of the game, right? Or were very inspired to return to it after being away for an extended period of time. Like you can feel what it's like to make something and just put it in there as like a level in the game. That was the one like ambition I wish I had. And obviously people want to use songs they know first and songs they like the best, right? But I think a good custom scene in a game is one that facilitates this kind of creation, over exclusively trying to build and use other people's works. And that was largely a lot of like my intent and feelings around how I wanted customs to go. Obviously, everyone has a
Yeah.
different vision for what customs should it be and what and how it should exist from like other developers, but also just from like our own community, right?
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, just like I really resonate with the idea of artists getting involved directly and making those levels and like taking the lessons they experience from playing a game like Unbeatable and adapting it in like this kind of more literal form of like, hey, you can just like feel out the music as the characters right from this game, um and whatnot. So I really like it when people have done that. I've seen a lot of people make customs based off of their own original music, and it's super fucking awesome. And like that's what I wanted to see when Editor released. So
Hell
very
yeah.
very happy about that. Yeah.
Um,
um and also, actually, I want to make one more note about this. Sorry, this is very extended talk about
no.
this, but the whitelist, partly one of the main protections it does for us is that it um it allows us to like the community to not trample on our own ability to collaborate and do bespoke things for the game too, because like we really care about that track list, our own track list for the game, and it means a lot less when people can just put any song in the game, right? But we
Hmm.
still want to give the community that freedom, right? The freedom to do that expression, to make their own levels with what they can, right? But we do care about that track list, and we do want it to still be considered an event when we can bring cool artists and cool different tones into Unbeatable. So that's like the way I see it. It's like we need to still protect and like ensure we are not blocking our ability to do that by just letting people do like everything. Um, and also because it's just disrespectful to our fellow peers, and we don't want to
Yeah.
be seen as leeches, trying to make money by like having this game that people could use as a platform to for any of their songs, like for any song that's out there. Um like yeah, there's a lot of fiends there. The more intentional fiends can feel with Unbeatable, the better,
Yeah.
basically.
That
With how we approach arcade mode, at least in my point of view.
that yeah, I completely agree. Moving on to sort of a different but kind of similar question in terms of like intentions and feelings behind it. Your work is very um you described yourself on your website. You're very inspired by like the early 2000s and like a very specific vibe of the early 2000s. Klonoa,
Mhm.
Kingdom Hearts, those kind of games, right? And there's been like a societal reemergence of the Y2K 2000s aesthetic and like all of its different flavors. And what's your like I've noticed that some of it kind of feels fake. Like I was born in
So
2008, so I can't really like say how much of it I really have. I don't really have much nostalgia in general, but seeing some of it still kind of feels like it doesn't feel right, I guess.
So it's funny because when in the early 2000s, a lot of this like kind of freaker era, like kind of like industrial computer graphic aesthetic was seen as overtly cynical, stale, colorless, flavorless, corporate. Like it was seen as these fiends largely. Um, but it's primarily because of the way a lot of major companies adopted it because there was a genuine movement back then around using computer graphics for very expressive types of visuals that like cannot normally like it feels very different because technology is what made it right a specific type of technology but it also very much embodies a very overtly cynical aspect of that era and I think it's not necessarily us wanting to return to that time but the fact that our generation grew up with it has changed the way we see art and changed the way we see people. And I think that kind of aesthetic really clicks with people as a result for that reason. You know, maybe on the surface, people just really like the smoothness and kind of weird textury feel of Y2K and how expressive it can be, right? Of like the
Hmm.
Y2K style movement, but it's a lot of different themes. I think it's a lot of the ways we reinterpreted like 60s, 70s Americana. Like a lot of people describe pop and music's aesthetic as Y2K, which is really funny because the early popping games that they are tapping into for this, they play with very old aesthetics. They're looking at like 60s, 70s, like jazz, and whatnot, and like kind of club that kind of style clubs in those earlier pop versions. That's not at all 2000s. Like that did
Yeah.
not exist. We were listening to Mariah Carey around that time. We were not like jamming to like the way Poppin' Y2K kind of feel looks like it almost looks like it's like the Beatles. It makes the Y2K look like the Beatles. And the Beatles is still very popular, but they were not on the radio around that time, right? Not in Japan, not here, right?
Yeah.
Um, which is actually is a very like it goes into a similar theme with like I know the most recent game of the discourse is right now mixtape has a very interesting
Yeah.
mixtape is a very interesting scenario because like that track list like that set list is like all like 60s 70s stuff um and was not reflective at all of the type of music
Yeah.
people listened to in the 90s especially in America and it's very built on a fantasy of movie based off of like media and fiction where a lot like the actual nostalgia lied in the 60s and 70s music like
Yeah.
essentially it's like a regurgitation of the nostalgia where it's like okay we want to be nostalgic about the 90s but what happened was that people in the 90s were nostalgic about the 70s right
Yeah.
so you're actually kind of more so expressing endearment towards the 70s right and that's weird. It's like
It's
not the exact
this.
same. Y2K is so interesting because um a lot of it is owed to the existence of technology that only existed in the late 90s to early 2000s. So that style of music, that style of art, right? The
Hmm.
computer like generated graphics and everything. Those things did not exist before the 90s, right? Like well,
Yeah.
they kind of did, right? But not in the form that it did then. So when you're nostalgic about the 2000s, you're nostalgic about the late 90s and early 2000s. Like that is true. Like it is
Yeah.
there's a real sense of time and place that those fiends had because of how rooted it was in the limitations of that. It's very different from music movements because again, music it feels like a much more like in terms of the way like music kind of exists, like its lifespan culturally is very different from how this type of computer graphics and computer music existed. Um, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of different fiends there. Like, some of this stuff existed in the 80s and is still a huge part of this culture, but like yeah, like but even then what people see as Y2K was people retrospecting about stuff in the 60s to 80s
Mm.
depending on how it was done, right?
Yeah.
Like Parappa is very much playing into way older aesthetics than the late 90s was really all about. Like that's not what was hip in the 90s, right? At all. Like it had a sense of nostalgia to it because it was tapping into a very specific style that's very different, but still felt contemporary. And I guess it's like, this is not me saying like works can never be truly original, but like there's always like some kind of like lineage and
Hmm.
path to older and older fiends. And there's only you can only go so deep into a nostalgia well before you just completely drown in it, right? So
Yeah.
it's like it's the kind of thing where if you're not thinking too critically, you can't end up in a pathway where you blindly think of something of a specific time and place as something that it actually wasn't, right? And not
Hmm.
thinking too much about what actually happened back then, and not only what happened back then, but what people were yearning for back then. Because in that time frame, when people saw that type of like computer generated graphics and stuff to start feeling really corporate, um, and very stale and like colorless, right? A lot of it
Yeah.
was very white. For an example, like it wasn't as colorful as people like to remember it as. Um, but like you're also thinking about what people lamented back then, right?
Hmm.
The things that changed, that like people hate change. I know people hate change a lot because we've changed things in Unbeatable and people hate it. They
Yeah.
hate when things change. And it's been no different back then. It's been no different now.
Mm.
And it's not just when a game changes, like something like a patch to a game happens. Like it's even down to the minute moments of like this thing no longer existing, the store no longer being there, this place no longer being there. And I do think there is a danger in exploring and being lavish about nostalgia, but not talking very critically about it, because it is a danger, and it is also a risk, I think, to fall into a nostalgic puddle of fiends were great back then and now they're not now, because
Yeah.
then, well, it's true that fiends been worse than ever, but when you clean so much onto the past, you play into the exact ideologies that are making fiends bad now, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. It's
and that was a real thing we to consider it unbeatable. Like if there's one thing that like is largely like was a like a huge focal point for us when we were talking about the game and its narrative direction, it was about the dangers of nostalgia. It was about seeing things through the lens of different generations, right? And thinking very critically about like the longing for times and places that don't exist anymore,
Mhm.
and have changed, and also acknowledging that the longing and of the longing for those places, right? Like you're not specifically just looking at that moment, right? It's moments before and moments after, right? It's so much more complex than just wishing a certain day came back, I guess.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't get like I don't have much nostalgia for anything, but I do get it. And I also get how the rose-tinted glasses can also be especially tinted, where you just can't really see the flaws, even though the flaws were definitely there.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily about seeing flaws, but it's like um you end up so enraptured in the in time that doesn't happen anymore that you don't think about where it's at now for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely. Okay. What can you tell us about Space World?
okay, so Um, ID like okay, there's this like tech camp. I think it's someone's called ID Tech Camp, right? Um, and like they were kind of like summer camps where you could like learn how to make games and like do robotics and stuff like that. And Spaceball was a project I made during one of those camp sessions.
Oh.
Um, it basically was built with a bunch of assets put together from like an asset like the default asset packs in Multimedia Fusion 2. um, I wanted to do all sorts of weird things with the game, um, but like I was a really silly young kid, who didn't know what I was doing, and uh, wanted to make a much more complex game, and was really sad when I realized actually that like there's no way I can make something that cool Um, but like I still got weird with it, right? I think
Hmm.
there's one particular thing I remember is that, and for the record, it's like a bunch of linear, like kind of 4x3 screens where you just shoot shit, and then you just go to the next screen where you shoot more 4x3 shit. There's barely any AI. The enemies barely do anything. Like it's kind of a crummy, like kids first game kind of deal. But one particular thing I remember is that in one level only, if you press a combination of certain keys, you can just have the health bar, your player health bar, start shooting projectiles directly at enemies. Um, and that sounds absolutely stupid. Like, why would I do this? And the reason was just because, like, I wanted to do
Yeah.
something weird and goofy, and like it was a very formative thing to make. I have a very funny screen of the game when I was younger, where like from like a long time ago. Uh, where you can like see my writing for it, and it was like really awful. I'm gonna see if I can still find this game, um, because it's like literally an exe, and I could just like upload and send it to people just from like anywhere. But it is a really old project. The one really cute thing about that class that I was in, that like summer camp class I was in, is that you got to make your own box art and cover of
Oh,
for
that's
your
so
games when you
cute.
finished. So I actually did make that, and I think I have it somewhere in my townhouse if I can find it. Um, so that's a pretty memorable theme for me. Was like that was like one of my first times being exposed to making a game and really wanting to make something, but it was very stupid. And because it used like I think the asset pack, it's not like it would ever be released commercially, God no, but I don't feel the I think at some point I should release it. I could honestly release it with this podcast thing when it the show when it comes out. Like
Yeah.
just like if I can find it. I have it somewhere. I don't remember where it is. It's all like all the stuff is all over the
Uh,
place. So
yeah, keep me in touch if you find it. I would.
I'm searching for it right now, but I genuinely don't know where I put it. Like I would have to burn the CD if it still works for
Oh my
the
God.
game if I can find the box. But I know I uploaded it somewhere. Um, so it should show up. The game is very funny though because of the way certain backgrounds and themes loaded. Like it just like freezes during certain points. It just doesn't load. It's super goofy. I really wanted to do a lot more with it, but it was like a 1 week course, so I didn't really get to spend too much time with it. But yeah, no, Spaceball was like I listed it there because it's like a fun little memory, and some people who browse that site have actually played this game before. Just like sometimes I just have it around as a joke. Um, but these days when I look at it, like it's hard to not look at it and just be like, this is stupid, but it's so cute. It's such a cute thing seeing this thing, right? Um, this really dumb little game that I made as a kid, like a very impressionable kid. This is like getting my feet wet in terms of making games, and I didn't really stick with it for too long after. But oh, I think I did just found a zip for it on my Google Drive.
Oh my God.
So
Hell yeah.
yeah, and
Uh,
obviously I don't know if you can show this in the recording, but like I can literally unzip and stream this.
I mean, I
But
could I could probably like um uh mm, I don't have a I'm doing everything through OBS and I don't have like a way to share the screen. Well, I mean I do, but not in the scene where I record for MMix. So
okay,
just send me like an assorted list of like screenshots from it, I guess.
yeah. I can do that right now. I can
And
stream it. It would it be? It might be a little weird if it like picks up the audio. So like, let me see if I can just. Uh, I'll stream it, but like mute the audio. I think.
okay.
Oh God, this means. Uh, yeah. So this is the game.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you can see like all the asset packs just like thrown together in one space.
Oh, this is
And
beautiful.
yeah, and then sometimes because of because of the music, you can see like different themes, right?
Text,
Um,
the text is spinning
so
so fast.
oh yeah, they spin really fast. I think that's just like actually like the normal sprite. I don't know if it's because of the refresh rate or anything, but see there's this, and then you can walk around and shoot fiends. Oh, it's arrow keys. I forgot. The bullets do not change direction, so it's just like a black fiend that just like horizontally looks like this, right? Um,
Oh my God.
yeah, it's a work of art. I think
It is
I was fucking with this shit.
this needs to be protected. I
Yes,
They should be
wonderful.
in the archives.
Yeah. Also, sometimes the health bar is different at each stage because I like couldn't figure out how to get it to like carry between levels. So, so the projectiles would look different and everything. So,
This
and
is
this is like a boss fight,
oh my
and
god.
it's essentially planes. But like, yeah, again, like the AI barely do anything, right? So, and you can just shoot multiple projectiles at once like this. Like, uh, let me see. If I hit FT, I can reset it. Yeah. Um, Yeah. Do not press anything while loading the level, or you have to plane on the
No.
screen. If it does not if it does find a way to make it back or quit the game, it's like, you know, sorry, the game kind of sucks. Can you like just deal with this problem for me instead? Like,
Yeah, can you just
um,
like
I'm gonna include a few screenshots. Oh, the story is the best one. I'm like
oh
dying a little bit on the side.
in
It's
20 I'm
straight
gonna
up
read
like
this. I'm gonna read this out loud. In 2055, the War of the Year lasted too long, misspelled too. All the space human soldiers also misspelled, died again. Jesus, why? Died against the aliens, and the aliens took their planes. The whole world is domed, but one soldier is left, and the people is counting on you. Get ready to save the world.
so they're really. I love the. I'm gonna go back and just show it again, but like at the start, you see like the ship going in and destroying these other ships, and it's really funny. Like that's how you know. That's like a cutscene. It's like it was like a cutscene and everything. So,
Yeah,
um, I don't know what the
characters.
character screen is. I think it. Yeah, it's just this.
Oh my God. This is
It's
uh
wonderful.
beautiful actually. This is a work of art.
Yeah, I think I was like, I don't remember my age when I made this. I was like at least like 9 years old or something, 9 to 10 years old. The date for the zip is like 2014, but like, there's no way I made this game when I was 13. So yeah,
Oh my
but
God.
it's a work of art. I
The
love this vein. I kind of say like, oh, this is like stupid and whatever, but it's like it's okay that it's stupid. Like this is like such a very, um, it was my first time getting like to explore and like see what it was like to actually make a game, and I was kind of disappointed that I couldn't make like Nintendo looking games immediately off the bat, but like, um I still tried, and I tried to make something that felt very feature rich with tons of menus and different options, and it felt like a complete game experience, even though it was, well, it was that. So
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely could see about like releasing and putting it on my website. It's like, so the execute, it's literally just an executable. Like it's not even like a folder with items. Like for example, I could just do this and you have Space World now.
Oh my
Congratulations. Yeah.
yippee. That's getting downloaded.
Yeah. I don't know if it would work downloaded over Discord, but it should. Like it
I
is
mean,
literally
I
all
could
packed in this graphic window
I
like application. Yeah.
I will try it right now. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome to my desktop screen. Say hello to Hatsune Miku.
Oh, it's Miku. I saw her on Tuesday.
Oh hell yeah. Oh yeah, Miku Expo. Expo. Jesus, my bad. Um yeah, of course Windows protected my PC.
Excuse me.
Oh, oh,
It looks like it works.
it kinda. Oh,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
oh,
I only designed the game to be that window size, so if you like
oh my God.
maximize
Let me
it, like
turn the.
it looks like this. Yes.
Oh
So
my God, this is all right. So it works. I will play it later, but that's awesome. I wow.
there you
Um,
go. That is the first ever game that I have made, um, in your hands, and it's a very special work.
it is a work of art.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. This one I don't really know why I asked this question, but I might as well just ask why a gun hammer?
Oh, I just thought it was awesome. I don't know, like
It
when I
is
was trying to think
awesome.
about like when I'm trying to think about like what a weapon I would want for this character to use. So uh she like was originally designed for a game concept that I kind of still want to make someday, which would be very funny because it would still feature the character, but now the character's my Sona, so it's a little strange.
Hmm.
But one particular hobby that the character would be able to pick up, because it's like RPG, is like hunting and hunting with a rifle. So the character has like this like affinity with guns somewhat, but I also feel like in a modern context, because the context of Chi appearing as they do is because they technically are from the 1800s, or like the
Mm.
1900s, sorry. So like from like a really long time ago, right? The context of them using like a old like hunting rifle, right? In a modern day context seems kind of weird and also boring. So I think just like morphing it into like a massive weapon, like goofy weapon, would be a lot of fun. I also really um like hammers are like a particular weapon I really like because it emphasizes kind of like a bit of like goofiness while feeling very strong and powerful. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it's a blend of like my two types of favorite weapons in games, which is primarily like guns and hammers and stuff, right? And given She a Weapon was mostly out of the idea of like what would this character use in like a modern setting, and specifically if they like appeared in that like in that like Final Sky Hourworks game, like what would they be using, right? Because everyone's gonna be using all sorts of like kind of goofy stuff in that final game, and it would make sense to have something kind of equally goofy, I guess.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, it makes total sense. Like just because it's awesome. I mean, yeah, it is awesome. I was just kind
oh
of
yeah,
like, out of all for this character to have a gun hammer, that I need to ask about that.
yeah. Also, there is a gun hammer in Monster Hunter. That's really
Uh,
cool, and I'm kind of sad there isn't more weapons like it in Monster Hunter because it's just a normal hammer, right? But
hmm.
I like the idea of like because it's important to note that like the gun hammer doesn't actually shoot like bullets from the chamber. Instead, it discharges them. Like it's like kind of like an explosion from the inside. So it's like kind of like a really condensed like shotgun blast. Um, that like you can activate when you like swing. Like imagine just like smashing somebody with a hammer, like face like and they just like you smash them into the ground and the hammer's still stuck there. And before you lift it, you like pull the trigger and like blast them, right? Just like sinking them further. Like that's like kind of the fantasy of it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get it. This next like point on my list of things to ask you is not a question, but it's a thing I've been cursed with. So you've played Hi-Fi Rush, right? All the way through?
yes.
Okay. So you know the last song, like the last level uses the song Whirring by The Joy Formidable. One of the
Yes, I do. One
personal
of my favorite parts of the game for sure. Yeah.
same. It is I think it is my favorite needle drop in like any video game ever. But recently I have learned something horrible. I'm
Oh.
sharing my stream again. So yeah, familiar with the song, you know. Where is it? Yeah, good intro. Okay, now, are you familiar with The Lonely Island?
Uh, I don't listen to The Lonely Island, if that's what you're wondering, but like
Yeah,
I know if it's a
yeah,
yeah.
you're aware of it. You do not need to listen to them, but
I see.
You
Yes,
only live once.
learning this
The
ruined me.
battle cry of a generation.
incredible.
I
Yeah.
I love music production stuff like this, but it's also like a curse because now I can't separate the fact that now those all of these things are related. I can now relate Hi-Fi Rush to Kendrick Lamar through one song, and I don't know what to do with this information. I'm cursed. I'm cursing you with this
I mean,
information.
how did do you know how I felt when they released this trailer for Strangers in Heaven and it's like the song is the main theme for the game as well as like features cast members that like they play the actual characters, but it's like a forward collaboration between Tori Kelly, Satoshi Fujihara,
Oh
the
yeah,
frontman for Higa Dandism, and of course Otto
Snoop.
and Snoop Dogg, which is like absolutely fucking insane. Uh, just the idea of like now anytime I've like listened to Otto, I'm like, oh my god, this person collabed with Snoop Dogg now. Like that's just all I'm thinking about is, yo, it's the artist that collabed with Snoop Dogg, and it's like, yeah, those kind of associations are uh very fun. I think.
Yeah,
Um,
they're fun. When I say it's a curse kind of thing to be like, oh, now these things are related, and they probably shouldn't be, but now they are. But then
That's
again,
just
it
how it
also
be,
it's just
right?
how it is, and it's like it's kind of fun. Like that's the it's more played up for jokes than anything, and it's great. And it's nice to have random connections like that. That's like bar trivia, I guess.
Oh yeah.
And the final like regular question I have for you is what can you tell me about hold on. Let me link this. What can you tell me about this tweet?
Oh, so this was at I believe I met my Caps, who's a friend of mine uh at the pop-up we did with Pikarar for Beatable. And they just gave me the sticker.
Oh, that's
And
good.
it's very funny. Yes, the sticker is the My character Milk experiencing carpal tunnel.
Oh.
And it says carpal tunnel warrior. Uh I don't I would I wouldn't express My as a game that commits that gives carpal tunnel syndrome. There's a lot of PC rhythm games are more likely to do that for me just because of the way I play them. So stuff like DJ Max, etc. TDX definitely also fucking hurts to play a lot. My has mostly been more enduring on my arms than my hands. So but this sticker is very funny. I just think it's cute. I like the My characters a lot. They're all very funny uh, characters with oddly really hard hitting songs associated with them for some reason. Just like lots of really banner songs. Um,
Hell yeah.
and yeah, Milk is actually a pretty popular character. She's like a cat who's uh, very obsessed of drinking milk so she can become a big booby adult girl. But she's just a dumb little cat. And it's very fun. Yeah.
Hell
So
yeah. Yeah, the reason I asked you about it is because Caps wanted me to bring it up. Um, when you first reached out, I was like, oh God. And being part of the full combo staff and like writing up the things for them, I was like, okay, well, might as well post about it here just in case people have any questions they'd like to forward. And the only thing I got was, yeah, that.
yeah, no, I still remember that sticker. I don't know where it is right now because I actually wanted to put it on something, but I can't find it right this second. So I'm just if Caps happens to know where I can get that sticker again, let me know. Because actually that sticker was given to me before I got into my mind. Like I was kind of like casually playing it, like kind of learning the game, but like it hadn't officially released in the US yet at that time. So I was mostly playing on import cabinets, but now I'm like really obsessed with the game. So, um, and yeah, it would be really cool to see something like that. Again, if I can find another one of those, I
Hell
also
yeah.
just find a lot of the fan art people do for my mind to be very funny and cute. So,
I'll ask Caps if he has the link for it, if he like, bought it off of somewhere or got it as a gift. I'll let you know. So
okay, I would appreciate that.
so now we're winding down to like the usual questions I ask everyone at the end. First things first, are there any questions you want to ask me? Um, I've been asking you questions for the past almost 2 hours, so might as well,
Right, right. Um, I guess like the one question I'd have to ask is like, what is the key takeaway that you want to have? Like, what want people to have from the fiends that you make? What do you want? What do you want people to like? I guess like this is not the best way to word it, but like I'm gonna try my best to like communicate this. Like, what do you think people like see? Like, how would you describe the way you're the I am actually really struggling to find a good way to convey this. But the idea of like people understanding who you are, the type of person you are through your works, what do you want
uh,
people to take away from that? Like,
there's that
what is the kind of person people want to see, what that people see in your works? Like, what do you want that to look like?
as authentic as to myself as I can be. Like the person I am right now is the same person that's in the music, the same person that's living day to day, I guess. That's the easiest and
Hmm.
best way to put it. Of course, different sides of myself get shown through my music and like these interviews and the stuff I do in terms of like making graphics for art and like what I'm inspired by. It's like, yeah, I would definitely say like there's messages that are like going through me that are hopefully in the art as well, but at the end of the day, I just want people to understand that the person making like the person that is doing the interviews and making the posters and making the songs and like doing the DJ sets are all the same person and are like they're they're just trying their best, I guess. It's hard to like really explain because it's also like I don't know if the full idea of myself has formed yet. I'm only 18, like turned 18 this year. I have a long life ahead of me. And the I don't think who I am yet has fully developed. Like sure, a good chunk of myself has been developed and shared and like been put through these things I put out online, but it's not fully formed yet, and it's going to take a while before I'm fully formed. Hell, it's probably like it's probably a cop out way to say that, but you're not truly fully formed. You're just like collecting more pieces of yourself and who you are um throughout your
You're
entire
gonna
life.
continue. Yeah, you continue. You always continue growing and changing, and like the things that you think like, oh, this is who I am, and this is who I'm going to be. Like those are not ever set in stone.
Yeah.
So a part of it's just kind of in learning to enjoy the ride that comes with that.
Yeah.
And like as long as people can like they don't like it can be interesting to have works that represent like your authentic self, because when you get older, right, and you start making more fiends, those older works might no longer reflect who you are as a person anymore. And I definitely know that because I mean, for example, like the Space World game I showed you, that definitely is nowhere close to who I was, like to who I am now, right? There's definitely a huge pathway from that like little kid into like who I am presently, right? There is a connection there, but it is not representative of me as a person, and that can be the case for even like some of my other games. Like I think the kind of person I am now is like if I made a game like a Nightmare Strip or a Space by Pilot, they would be very different kinds of games than when I made them back in 2019 and 2020 respectively. And a lot of that authenticity I think is also partly out of the accepting the fact that in time it oddly becomes inauthentic
Mm-hmm.
to the present person you are, and but it's still authentic, and because it was authentic to the you that existed before. And I guess just like um making that connection and figuring out how you want that to feel like as in like a totality, especially as you're making a bunch of like of your own original work is a very important thing to figure out. So
Yeah. Like it's very much I know the person I am will not be reflected. Like the person I am now will not be reflected in the art I've put out like years ago, but it was still it was a snapshot of me, like a photo of
mhm.
like a photograph, and those eventually like will fade with time, like wear and tear. May not even be like hell. It might not even like I might hate the work I put out or like but I'll always like respect it as well. That's just that's just a fact of making art in general.
Yeah, for sure. And as long as you're true to yourself now, that will be true to you then, right? So
hmm Yeah. Um, kind of was not. I was not expecting that sort of question. Ow. That. I mean, thank you for asking
shit
it. That was a yeah.
shit gets real sometimes. I get it.
Shit,
Yeah.
yeah, shit gets real. I was not expecting like a curveball question. Well, not, I wouldn't call it a curveball, but like a tonal curveball after like 2 hours. Which, yeah, by the way, we've
hmm
been going for 2 hours. This is now the longest MX interview. I try not to cut these down at all, and I try to keep the original recording as intact as possible, so it's as natural as possible. So
Right.
it will still, but it will be a 2 hour interview once this comes out, and that's gonna be, oh boy, that's gonna be fun. Um,
Oops.
that's not a oops. Genuinely such a great conversation. Um, what have you been listening to playing recently? I know you've kind of answered what you've been playing recently with Pragmata, but like, of course, there's been more than that.
So I can definitely answer both of those. So listening, I've been recently listening to in specific, uh, Tokyo Dots. I don't know if you know what Tokyo Dots is. So the if you try, the actual artist name is like, it's like literally a bunch of dots, right? It's like styles of life, like one for each member. It was like Tokyo, like it's like 9 dots, I think. Yeah. They are a
Oh.
shoegaze idol, Japanese shoegaze idol group, and they were active for a few years. No longer active now, but like they I recently came across some of their music, and there's some pretty cool releases of theirs, notably their album Blank and Points. Those are the 2 big albums, and I really like their songs a lot. They have a really good mix of like, um, very like kind of loud, multi like vocal tracks, uh, music, but like it's still under that kind of like shoegaze tone. And it feels occasionally soft and occasionally pretty loud. I don't know, like it's a really, you would know, like I guess a good way to say is like I feel like the way to describe music is not very verbose, but um, there's a very interesting legacy with this band because the idea of the of Tokyo Dots, is that they are not, or rather Dots Tokyo, right? Well, either or. Is that every member of this group was anonymous, right? They had like face covers, like people didn't see their eyes when they performed live. Their names were not revealed, right? Um, like etc. Right?
Yeah.
So the whole emphasis of the band was the like it's funny because when you have like an idol band, like you want to have like kind of build characters, build personas of each individual idol for people to grow attached to. But they kind of did the exact opposite, right? The idea of a dot was that they could be like anything, right?
Mhm.
So they didn't. So like obviously like in like each dot represented like an idol girl, but like it didn't. Um, uh, it was the idea that the dots themselves were malleable in concept and shape and form, and that reflects a lot in their music. So yeah, it's really cool. I really like a lot of their music. Some of the artists still work independently, but like at the time when they were doing it, like they were all anonymous. And yeah, finding this artist is a bitch online because like the actual metadata for the songs is like literally a bunch of dots, right? Like for
Yeah.
example, like I'll just show you a screenshot like of what this looks like on most streaming platforms. Is um like this shit is ridiculous. Like
Oh my god. Yeah,
um
it's just 9 periods. Oh. Oh, the search engine optimization would. Oh, they gotta hate to see this coming.
they're pretty hard to find, and some of their like releases outside of their 2 albums are very difficult to find on streaming too. Actually, so um very interesting group.
Yeah. That's
Uh, Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. That's for
no.
games I'm playing. So, mainly I've been playing Marathon with friends. I really like Marathon a lot. Um, but apart from Marathon, uh, like so apart from Marathon, I've been I'm trying to think. So I recently picked up Motor Slice and was playing a little bit of that. And but like I'm kind of hopping between a bunch of different games right now, to be honest. Like
Mhm.
Marathon's the mainstay, but like apart from Marathon, grinding out my I haven't really felt compelled to play too much stuff because a lot of the stuff I wanted to play, like Pragmata and whatnot, like I have finished, and I'm just kind of waiting for other things. But what's interesting is that so I was able to like I got a 3DS, a new 3DS after having like my
Oh.
3DS from like 2011 for so long. Like I got a brand new one, and I've been using it to play games because while I love bringing my Steam Deck around, it's just too big sometimes to bring
Mhm.
it in most contexts. So I've been like kind of going through my 3DS library and finding stuff to play, and I'm currently playing Project Cross Zone 2, um, spelled as Project X Zone, and it is a sequel of sorts to the like original Namco Cross Capcom, and it's like a strategy RPG developed by Monolith Soft, uh, the company, the team that makes the Xenoblade games. And Project Cross Zone is just what if we came up with a bunch of really stupid, silly excuses um, to bring characters from Bandai Namco, Capcom, and Sega games, and in the sequel, which I'm playing right now, even some Nintendo games. Like we just had a bunch of excuses for all these characters to come together and have a reason to all beat up a bunch of their respective villains as a group. Um, and it is a very long, pretty monotonous game with lots of very silly contrivances and whatnot. And like, imagine if you're playing like a strategy RPG like Disgaea or Fire Emblem, and there's just like a total of like 30 fucking units on the map at a given time, and you have to wait for 20 enemies to move because they just throw so many fucking units at you. And you also have like this army of video game characters by your side as well, and are commanding like pretty much all of them at once. And each turn when you fight enemies, because it's kind of similar to the Super Robot Wars games, if you've seen this before, which is like kind of the same idea but for mecha anime. But like the huge flourishes are in like the super fancy attacks, right? That you get to do, and you're doing like very flashy combos and animations when your characters attack the enemies, and you can like build up a meter to do like fighting game style supers and stuff. Like it's very cool, but like super flat as a game, I think. But in terms of like seeing all these characters come together and just having the oddly really funny script that manages to weave in references and like pretty solid like fun references and general callbacks to like every single character involved. There's like so many different game series covered, some of which are very very niche, even for like a game primarily consisting of Japanese game characters, right? Like some of them are super niche. And yeah, it's just really fun. Just a really fun mismatch of all these cool characters from these different genres and seeing how they like animate their attacks. Like the sprite work in this game is fucking crazy as hell, and super impressive. And yeah, it's really cool. I like this game. It's very silly. I don't know if I would recommend most people play it, but like if if the idea of having like the main protagonist is Summon Night 3, which by the way never released in the US and is only Japanese, teaming up with like Kiryu and Majima, but specifically Kiryu and Majima from like Yakuza Dead Souls, like the zombie game, and not like the original, like the mainline games. Like if that sounds like fun to you, it's kind of the perfect game, I think. Also Sega Sanshiro, the like real life like marketing mascot of the Sega Saturn, is in the game as a playable character, and like his attack ends with him like grabbing and throwing the enemy and then them exploding as he walks away like in the original Sega Saturn ads. And he just talks to everybody like a complete maniac because all he can think about is just fucking video games and how everyone must play the Sega Saturn, and everyone's just like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? And it's kind of awesome. It's very stupid. Yeah. So I mean it's a great excuse to bust out my 3DS, especially when I'm in line for my. And because the game is kind of really long and monotonous, right? Like it's gonna keep me pretty busy while not like terribly taxing me or requiring my attention at all times. And it's kind of the perfect game right now. But I would appreciate playing more interesting games. So
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
I felt I recently played in Stars in Time after directly after beating One Shot.
That's a
I
perfect cocktail of games to be mentally ill over, I
Well, that's
think.
the thing. One Shot I really liked. I did not really okay. I like In Stars in Time. I should preface my whole opinion with that. I like the
Mhm.
game. For the shit it pulls, and for like I think I was not in the intended audience despite being recommended to it by a friend, like multiple friends actually. I was not in the intended audience, and I was expecting the game to like be something it wasn't, even though like it's like it's a weird. I'm completely in the fault for not liking it because I wasn't in the audience and I was like expecting something else, but I still have so many small issues with the game.
Right. No,
Um,
I could totally see that, especially because like a lot of people probably staged their recommendation of this game by being like, this is a lot like the other games you like, you know? Like
well,
it's like
they
maybe
I mean, like after One Shot, it made sense too. Like, indie RPG that focuses on like mental health. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, cool. If it like I've played a few of those, it makes sense. But I was also told not to go in with any knowledge And the fact that it was the game's main lesson for its main character is something that I've learned multiple times already. It felt like being in a time loop myself because I already knew what was going to happen, and it not
Right.
being addressed until the final act, and then it's not even like a full-on long-ass conversation about the consequences of it. It's just we'll get to it later off screen, and then yeah, no, it was like the payoff wasn't worth the time, the mental energy and time I spent playing it. Like that was over 24 hours I played the game for.
It's a pretty long game, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't play. I haven't got around to playing it, but I've mostly played the prologue, which I liked. So, but just like it is a long game, and I
I
think in terms of like its tone and what it's going for, it's the kind of theme where there's so many people in my life, my partner included, who are obsessed with that kind of theme, but it's not necessarily what I'm into. So I
yeah.
mostly have stayed away from it, but I have a feeling I'd like it because I'd like the prologue. It's just like I'm not
Yeah.
too sure if I want to necessarily experience this kind of story right now. I probably would have loved it a lot if I played it around the time, like the age I was when I played One Shot, though. And this is not me saying this for little kids or anything. It's just
Yeah,
like,
no, it's definitely
yeah,
not. It
it's just
is.
my taste in games changed a lot with that. And I think a good example of that too is like I've been also playing Titanium Court, which is a very good game. It is a very difficult game to explain because it's like part strategy game, part match three, part extremely sicko narrative adventure game. And a lot of the game and what it's doing probably would have hit a lot harder for me when I was like kind of getting into that style of game a lot more. But also, it
Mm,
kind of makes sense that I feel that way about the game because this game has been in the cooker for like a long time, and the guy that made it, AP Thompson, waited until the last possible moment to even announce it existed. Like the first time people ever got to play this game or even hear about its existence, really, outside of like his friends, was when he had to submit it for the IGF awards.
oh my
The
God.
game won the Samus McNally Grand Prize, um, and multiple other awards at the IGF, despite not even being released,
That
and
is
despite many
crazy.
people not knowing it existed because marketing for the game didn't really kick off until like earlier this year. Um, so very close guided secret. I know AP Thompson because AP Thompson worked on Consume Me, which was one of my favorite games of last year, and I was waiting for that game since high school. But also worked with that same person on a game called Be Glitched, which I also really liked. Um, so like there's a style of game here that like there's
Yeah.
a clear lineage from Be Glitched to this game. It feels like a very freaky evolution of it. And I think I'm not firmly in the space like mindset and space to play this kind of game right now, but I really appreciate that it exists, and it's also a very funny game. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
That is.
also a very dense game. This is like
Mm.
probably one of the largest scripts I've ever seen for a game in recent memory, which probably is why it's also only in English right now. So,
Yeah,
but
that is fair, and basically same feelings over here regarding In Stars and Time. Not
yeah.
wrong, right game, wrong time. I appreciate it exists, but I can't see beyond its problems sometimes. Specifically, to not, I'm trying not to spoil it because I do think it's worth a shot if you like
Mhm.
the prologue. But basically, it gets. I describe the game as like a soap opera paradox because I don't like soap operas, right? The structure of them just constantly like out of the one soap opera I watched, it was painful, but it was also like watching
Uh-huh.
a car crash, so I couldn't look away. But the writing style of soap operas is a writing style I do not like. But when it comes to games, if it's done well, I really like it.
Right.
There are some games that nail that writing, and I really love them. And Stars in Time does not pass that paradox. The amount of shit that happens does not equal the amount of relief you get when it's not happening, and the time that the characters get to like not deal with shit and just get to like exist and explore. Like you get one good section right before shit hits the fan, and then once shit starts hitting the fan, it constantly gets hit the fan until you get to the end of the game. And
I do want
I
to clarify for the record regarding the game I mentioned, Titanium Court, that I do actually really like the game a lot.
yeah,
It's just like I'm not in the right headspace, I think, to fully engage and immerse myself in like the dialogue for it. Because like there's like in like sometimes when you just see like a new node appear in the match 3 board, it like has like I think great paragraphs worth of dialogue of like characters having back to forth conversations about it, and it's excellent, amazing writing that's really funny, right? But it's like there's a lot to soak in about the experience, and actually trying I've barely explained what this game is to you, and like I don't think I could because the game is ridiculous. Like to explain this game, it is quite a lot, but
Yeah.
yeah, I totally understand that implications are like In Stars and Time is probably a game that came a little too late for you. Whereas I feel like
Eh,
Titanium Core is
yeah.
like the Titanium Core came at it's a very specific point in my life where like I'm kind of not seeking that kind of game right now. But I feel like if I just wait maybe a handful of months and just come back to it later, I can go all the way through it and kind of
Uh,
see something in there.
yeah.
And this is also just me saying, by the way, if the idea of a game that is like I got like again like the whole vibe of the game is just it's kind of a very sicko game. Um, like that is extraordinarily funny, but also just kind of strange. Like I do highly recommend this game.
Hell
Yeah, so Titanium Core is very very neat. There's a reason why it won so many
yeah.
awards despite no one knowing it was a fucking thing. Like
Yeah. I might check it out.
yeah.
And finally, to cap off our interview, who do you, is there any shout outs you want to give to anyone? Anyone you
Um,
want to put on?
there's lots of friends that I could shout out to, so it feels really weird to like single out any particular people. But um mostly just thankful to a lot of the friends and people in my life right now for helping me find more to do and find more to appreciate than just, you know, uh just like working on games and stuff. I'm really thankful to a lot of my coworkers for kind of sticking through everything and willing to also navigate this very strange like next chapter together as a group. I'm very thankful to my partner for being very patient and being very willing to care for me um, through a lot of hard moments leading up to Unbeatable's release and especially the stuff after. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's like kind of the general just this like it I don't have any particular major shout outs that I want to give out to apart from just friends, family and stuff.
Mhm.
Um but like I will say if because I think you have played it, but like in the event that you have people here like are listening to this haven't, you should play Rubato actually. And if you like
Oh, I have.
Unbeatable, if you like Unbeatable, you'll really like Rubato because like it's like the
It's
listen, this is like the way everyone's headcaning Unbeatable as like transgender doomed Yuri. I'm just saying, if you want doomed trans masculine doomed yaoi, you should play Rubato probably.
I have not gone around to it, but I've seen so much. Well, I've seen so much marketing and so much like words discussed over the game. I need to get around to it. It's definitely on my list of shit I need to get to.
So I think an update, a coming update for the game is going to include Quaver as a playable character, but don't get your hopes up. It is exactly what it sounds like once you see this game.
Yeah.
So
Hearing that and knowing what the like, getting the vibe of the game, it's probably
it's
a
a it's a
gag.
it's a PNG, and it's
Of
the
course.
PNG.
It is
So
the P thank okay. If it's going to be the PNG, at least it's the PNG.
it is the PNG. So
That
yeah.
is awesome. Um,
Is this update even out yet? I actually don't remember. I think it's supposed to come out next month. Um, so
yeah, has this update been announced?
yeah, it has been announced and it's released next month, but I don't think it's specified what the sprite is, what the Quaver from Unbeatable edition is.
Well, now they know. Surprise! That's your reward for going through 2 hours and 18 minutes of an interview. Is that you get to know
Yeah.
that the Quaver JPEG is well, the Quaver PNG is in Roboto soon, next month.
Yes. Buy the game now with your money, please. Please give Decon all your money.
Ah, and yeah, I think that's gonna be it. Thank you for chatting with me. This was really fun. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting to go for nearly like 2.5 hours, but genuinely really fun. We lit, I yeah,
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to hop on and talk and stuff.
yeah. And with that, I'm gonna end the recording. See y'all around.